Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today, we're really getting into the future of aging and the power of lifelong learning. Our main source for this is a fascinating video transcript from Mustafa Al-Mahdi. He's a former board member at the UNESCO Regional Center for Quality and Excellence in Education. And our mission here is to explore how societies can, not just cope with an aging population, but actually thrive by tapping into the wisdom of every generation.
Yeah, and it's such a timely topic, isn't it? With demographic shifts happening all over the world, it's easy to just think elder care, but this source really broadens that. It's about, well, redefining what contribution means, societal cohesion. It's about creating a more vibrant future, really, for everyone involved.
Okay, let's dig into that. Starting with the big picture, Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. There's a focus there on a vibrant society, and one pretty ambitious goal is boosting the average life expectancy to 80 years. Now, that sounds great, obviously, longer lives, but it does bring a pretty significant challenge too, right?
It absolutely does. It forces us to ask, what does that society actually look like? When maybe a quarter of the people are over 60, how do we keep it vibrant, cohesive, happy? The transcript gives us some concrete numbers too. Like right now, 2025, Saudi Arabia already has over 2 million seniors, so 60 plus.
Yeah.
But the projection, that's the striking part. By 2050, it could be around 25% of the population.
Yeah.
That's a massive shift. It really demands some proactive thinking and planning.
A massive shift, yeah. So what does that mean for the quality of life? Not just for seniors, but like across the board. The source actually defines quality of life in a really interesting way, kind of thinking about that span between birth and death certificates. It talks about three things. Imagination that sparks new work, gives energy. Then that energy, it fuels commitment. And then commitment makes us ask, why not? And then crucially, why now? Pushing us to actually do something. It connects these almost philosophical ideas directly to quality of life. It's not just about stuff, it's about purpose, drive.
Okay, so that leads us to the proposed solution, or maybe the key mechanism here, which is this concept of lifelong learning. And we get a concrete example, the Quadwat Association, founded by the speaker Mustafa Al-Mahdi and a diverse group.
Exactly. Quadwat really puts lifelong learning right at its core. They call it the bridge between generations. And it's not just a nice idea, it's practical. For instance, they made sure 40% of their members are under 35. That's deliberate. It's about bringing young people in to actively help shape their future in 2050, making the solutions relevant. That deliberate inclusion, getting youth involved in their own future, that's smart. But the source makes a really important distinction, doesn't it? Between learning and education. Can you unpack that a bit? Why is that difference so key?
Oh, absolutely vital. The transcript points out that education, well, it often focuses on current capabilities, what you can do now, often in a defined structure, maybe time limited. Learning, though, is framed around future potential, what you could become. And you see this shift in hiring, right? And increasingly focusing on potential, not just existing skills. So lifelong learning as this continuous thing, it helps us see opportunities, navigate challenges, use what we know in new ways. It builds critical thinking, helps sort truth from, well, illusion, fosters gratitude, and it brings different people together for growth.
Right. So it's more than just acquiring skills, it's about adaptability, potential. But is this just theory? Where is it actually happening? The transcript mentions UNESCO's Learning Cities initiative.
Yes, and that's a great example. The story of Jubail Industrial City is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
It was the first Saudi city in the UNESCO Learning Cities network, okay? But then it went on to actually win the first prize globally for learning cities. That's huge. And that success, it sparked others. Yanbu, Medina, King Abdullah Economic City, Al-Asa, they followed suit. These cities become like incubators for that vibrant society idea where everyone, regardless of age, is involved in learning. It breaks down those age silos.
Breaking down silos, I like that. And there's that powerful line in the source. When a teacher retires from the job, they don't retire from life or learning. They become a source of knowledge.
Exactly. And that brings up a really critical question. How do we stop losing all that incredibly valuable tacit knowledge? The stuff that's not written down, the deep experience, the intuition, the wisdom a generation builds up.
Like the feel a mechanic has, or a diplomat's instinct.
Precisely.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that's so easy to lose when people retire. So this idea of knowledge management becomes crucial. It's about getting beyond just data, beyond information, to actual wisdom, the kind that helps us make good decisions, do the right things properly. We need systems, actual processes to capture and share that knowledge, turning retirees into ongoing contributors.
Okay, so making retirees ongoing contributors. How does this connect back to what seniors themselves actually need? The transcript mentions research on their priorities.
Right. The research highlighted suggests that psychological needs are often number one for seniors. Feeling valued, having purpose. That's followed by social needs, then health, then material needs. And the best way to meet that core psychological need, create real opportunities for them to share their knowledge, their wisdom. And that's where lifelong learning comes back in as that perfect bridge. It brings all generations to the same table to contribute. It's different from traditional education, which can sometimes, separate people by age group. This unites them.
But there are real challenges seniors face now, aren't there? Especially with society changing so fast.
Oh, definitely. The source points out some big ones. Kids moving away for work, the extended family playing less of a central role, maybe. Sometimes a perception that seniors aren't the main source of wisdom anymore, maybe because of the tech gap. And urbanization seniors in remote areas might lack that close family care. That's why the transcript pushes for this really fundamental shift, moving from a knowledge economy to what it calls a wisdom economy.
A wisdom economy. Okay, that sounds significant. What does that actually mean in practice?
It's a whole paradigm shift. By 2050, with maybe a quarter of the population over 60, these people aren't just retired. They can be exporters of wisdom. So think about associations for retirees. Instead of just being social clubs, they become dynamic knowledge platforms, places where experience is actively shared. And crucially, this needs young people involved. As volunteers, as co-learners, as the ones who will benefit down the line, it's this mix, this intergenerational merging of expertise boosted by volunteering, maybe social entrepreneurship. That's what builds real societal cohesion. It builds lasting human wealth, grounded in shared values. And it means making lifelong learning official, part of curricula, part of how all sectors operate. It's about embedding the value of wisdom into everything.
Wow. So we've really covered a lot, from the demographic changes pushing us towards this, to lifelong learning as not just a nice to have, but an essential bridge. We saw examples like QuadWatt, the learning cities. It really emerges as key to building that vibrant, connected future, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And looking at the bigger picture, it's really about changing how we value experience itself, ensuring that wisdom isn't just something old people have, but something that's actively cultivated, shared, and used by everyone. It really pushes us to see every single stage of life as a time for growth, for contribution, moving towards that wisdom economy.
So thinking about this for yourself, for everyone listening, beyond just, respecting elders, how can you, maybe in your community, your job, your family, actively help build these knowledge platforms? How can we make sure that invaluable experience, that tacit knowledge, isn't just lost, but actively shared? How can we help build that wisdom economy right where we are? Something to think about.